Hello, this is Zoe from makercrafty.com, and today I'm going to be sharing my colouring of Dame Aveline. I'm colouring her folds in the dress, and I share a few tips and tricks along the way. This is actually a video from a live recording in the Maker Crafty Facebook group. If you want to watch the full version, head on over to the group and you will be able to find the videos in the video section. Otherwise, I have edited it down so that removing all the chatter and try to leave in the good bits so that you can sit and watch the actual colouring side of things. So if you like the video, please do like it, and if you want to see more of these, subscribe to the channel, and that will let me know that you enjoying them. Okay, so I'm going to say bye for now, and I hope you enjoy the video. Let's make a start. Awesome, so I'm going to be colouring the dress in teal with gold trimming. So that was the colour choice that had been voted. So I thought that I would do that. And the colours that I have chosen are BG53 and BG05 and BG07. For my dark colours, I've got B39 and BV29, so we'll see how they go. I just find sometimes with the aqua teal type colours, they need a bit of a blue into the shadows. So alright, I'm just going to make a start, and I'm going to start with my main colour, which is going to be BG05, and start building up the shades on these folds. Now if you are new to doing folds and you want some in-depth information, I do have an ebook in the Make It Crafty store, and it has lots of examples and lots of explanations on creating your folds and guides you through step by step, so go check that out. So what I'm doing first is I'm just I'm imagining that these little areas are pockets of material, so I'm going to push them back. And one other thing that you'll notice what I do is I keep all of my strokes in the direction that the lines are, because if I was to colour this way and sort of flick this way, it's going to be hard to remove that flick, whereas if I continue my flicking all in the same direction of the way that the flow of the dress is, then it keeps it a nice smooth finish as you bring all of those colours together. So the reason I've got shading on each side is, and what I want to do here, what I like to do is I want to separate this. So I want to make sure that when I add my shading on this side, I'm going to leave a little line, which will be my highlight line, between that shadow and this shadow. Otherwise it all sort of comes together as a big blob, and you don't get those separations. So just think of that when you're doing your folds, and that will help separate it. Okay, so here's another little fold where I've got the dark side here, so I need to and I've got a dark side here, so I need to just make sure that I bring my highlight in that little one, just so I can make sure it stays separated, and I'll eventually get that roundness when I bring in the next shadow. Okay, and then on this side I've got it on both sides, and I want to yeah, I'm happy to just keep it on that side, so I'm going to, my highlight is on this side, so I'm going to come up again, leaving that little highlight like that. Alright, And then I'm going to do the same here. So I'm going to leave a little bit of a highlight along the bottom there. So I'm actually going to come in with, because I want to go quite dark, I'm going to come in with my B39 and start adding my dark, 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 because then I'm going to soften that with, so this is going to, okay, so the great thing about Copic markers or any alcohol markers is that you can do like an underlay, because you've got that translucent ink. You can put one color down and then you can put another color over the top, and sort of it will change the whole look. So you can, you know, you can put like a yellow or a red down, and then you can put like a purple over the top, and you get like, you know, a brown, like a brownie color and all sorts of stuff, right? So, but you can, like, I love doing a yellow and a green for leaves, because you get sort of like a warmer green, and then you could do that with the blue if you wanted to change some grass. You wanted to have like a bluish green grass, and so you can put your cool colors or your warm colors down first, and then you can come back with your main color over the top, and it helps give you that different look. And so with these teal colors, I'm using a dark blue so that I can really get great depth. So, boy, that was a long explanation for using blue. You could even use a purple into this. But yeah, I just chose a blue to keep it easy. And you see how I'm just essentially just layering and layering those colors. I'm not doing anything special. It's the thought process mainly in your first sort of, when you're first blocking it out. And then you just begin to layer your colors, you know, as you're working it up. Okay, let's go with my next shade is going to be the BG07, and this I'm going straight over that blue and then extending it a little bit. So now it's like getting the teal color back or the aqua color back by going over that blue, extending it towards the highlight, and I've got that really beautiful depth. I don't know if the camera is picking it up well, but can you see how I've got the teal back, but I've also got that great look with the dark blue. Hope that you can see it. If you can't, of course, I'll be taking a photo later, but I highly recommend experimenting with different shades to build up your own shades. Don't always rely on the suggested color families. On this one, on this fold here that I was talking about earlier, and I mentioned how I wanted to have that highlight there. Hi Haley. I didn't put that dark blue because I want the dark blue to really stand out, or like push this fold back. So I'm only going to use my darker shade of aqua here, or teal, whatever you want to call it, and keep that. I'm still keeping that that little highlight area there for later, but I'm not bringing that blue. So the reason that you don't want to have your darkest color on everything that you do is that you actually end up creating the same level. So you want to have some sections that are darker, some sections that are lighter, and then that helps to create the 3D look. Hopefully that made sense. And I actually talk about that particular topic of creating your depth and forming everything in my hair ebook, which is got a beautiful saturated canary, or by Krista Smith image, and it explains about creating different levels of depth when you're colouring. So that's probably a good one to add to your collection as well. Right, I just feel like I didn't get enough shading here. I'm just going to do that again. Enough blending, I mean. And that should really come right up. I'm going to do that like that. Alright. Alright, so that was the BG07, which I put over the top of the B39. So now I'm going to come back with the BG05, and I'm going to extend further to the highlight and fill in any areas where I'm not going to have, like, okay, I'm just going to just start with that and then I'll explain what I'm going to do. So again, over the top, I'm not going over the darkest part, but just over the edge to make sure that that blends. Moving towards the highlight. Alright, now I'm going to come in with the lightest. And the lightest shade is BG53, only because that's the one I had ink in. Otherwise I probably would have used BG02. But hey, I've just grabbed whatever. So it just goes to show you can use whatever you've got, just make it work. So I'm essentially just going over all of these highlights, and that one there I should have done with the BG 05, so I'm going to just come back, and now you can actually see what I mean. See how it created a line there, and I really want that to be a bit darker, and you'll just see the difference. See how that just looks a little bit better than having that really bright highlight on that side. We just want a dull highlight, if that makes sense. I'm going to do the same here. It's going to have the light one on this side, and then we're going to do a dark one on this side. You see the difference there? Does that make sense to you guys? Okay, so let's do the dark one on this side for this one, because we're going up the dress now, and then I'm going to do my highlight on the top. And you see how by flicking in the same direction, it's made it so easy for me to blend all those shades together, and I really haven't had to do much work in making my lines really nice and smooth. I feel like a broken record. If you listen to every video that I do, I say exactly the same thing time and time again. Alright, so I'm going to do my lightest shade just under here for a second, and then I'm going to do a cast shadow. So I'm going to do a cast shadow, what you want to do, so let's say we've got the skirt, so we've got the skirt round here. Coming down like that, right, and then it goes around like that, right, just so that you can imagine what I'm doing. So when you do a cast shadow, you do not want to, let me just quickly show you what you do not want to do. So we've got the skirt that comes around like this, the fold I mean. So remember, this is what we're going to do our cast shadow on. So this is what I'm replicating here. You work that one out. Okay, so this is what you do not want to do. You do not want to come along and go like that, because that is ugly. And it's not actually what happens in real life. What happens is that that fold is closer to the material here than it is here. So you want to start it as a point here, and then it gets thicker as the material is away from the material underneath. So you see how you start as a point of where you think the material is touching, and then you pull it away, and that helps to give the perception that the item is further away from what is underneath. So that is what we're going to do here. So see here, the material is touching at this point, and here obviously it's far away from the top of that fold. So we're going to come in at the point like this, and we're going to bring it down here to create our cast shadow. You see how that makes much more sense than doing a great big blob all the way across. So I'm going to just actually soften the edge, and then I want to come in with my dark blue, and you can soften it. You don't have to have a harsh line, but I'm going to have a harsher line with my dark blue. So I've got my B39, and now I'm going to come in and redo that shadow like so. So I've got that. So I've got that depth, and I've got that change in the shading of the different colors that I'm blending, and there you go. And I explain all of that in my folds coloring tutorial. So if you have a look on the Make a Crafty store in the ebook section, you'll find that there. And again, I am keeping everything in the same direction that the material is flowing, because it makes it a lot easier to blend. Yeah, so I find that if I start at the point, then I'm more likely to get my cast shadow pointed rather than if I start at the blob end. If that's now the terminology that we're using. Blobs and pointies. And another one here. And then what we'll be able to do is do one of those highlights on this side over here, because we've got our main light source from this side. And whilst I'm here, I'm going to add some depth over here. So this, essentially this fold under here is going to be the same as this one, where it all stays dark. It won't have like a major highlight. But I still leave the highlight till the end, and that is purely because I don't want it to get too dark. I don't want to have to go over it again, because every time you add a layer it does get darker even with the same shade. Alright, and then here we're going to do one of those little gaps. It's a little highlight gap. Bring that up, extend that. And did you see how, that was probably a good thing to show you. You see how when I extended that, I actually made it so that this line here now follows the top line. So I've given this thickness so that I can then have my highlight following that top line when I start adding my next color. Did that make sense? Do I need to explain that differently? I'm going to do exactly the same here. So I'm going to bring in my shadow shade, my forming shade, and then I'm going to extend it here and make this part thick so that I've got my top line of where the highlight will be following, so that it makes it easier to color later as I'm blocking this all out. Okay, let's do the same here. So I'm going to bring in my forming shade. I'm going to extend it to like a triangle, so that, and it's purely because I just want to match this line over here. And then I'm filling in this area. Okay. Alright, so that's the top part of that done. All blocked in. Let's get in with the B39. And I'm not going to put it on that one, and I'm not going to put it on that one, because they are closer to the front, and I only want extra depth in the ones that are pushed back further. So this, I want it in here. I want to take it into this little crevice. I do want it here. Like that. And that is it. So now I'm going to come in with the BG07, going straight over that blue and extending it towards the highlight. So I'm softening that line, I'm getting my teal color back, my shade back. Oh, just one sec, I got this one. And it is important to go all the way over the top of that blue. So you don't want to have the blue, you want the blue to help you get the depth, but you don't want it to look blue. And continue to extend and soften these lines. And again, so now I'm not going over the darkest part because I don't want to pull up that color. I'm just going over the edge of what I just colored. And so on this side, which is away from the light, I'm going to use that medium shade to do that highlight. And then I'm just going to extend this medium highlight. And now we are ready for the main highlight. Alright. You see, I'm just colouring in that highlight. I'm not trying to do any blending. I'm letting the ink do the work for me. I'm just putting it down where in the direction, the right direction, and then the ink does it. And so I'm just, at the moment I'm not worrying about cast shadows. I'm just getting the shading down. So I'm going to do a little bit of a tricky spot here because I want to leave that as a highlight along the rim there. Trying to be neat. There we are. To those rolls. And I'm going to leave that for the moment. I'm going to come in, add a little line under here, add some depth into this one. I'm going to bring it all the way down on this back one, like so. Okay, so yep. Okay, I'm going to bring it down here because I want all of this to be quite dark, but I am, because I want to make sure that I separate that, I'm just going to bring it down the center, leaving a bigger highlight because I'm going to use the darker shade and going straight over that blue so that we get our teal color or aqua color back. Using the blue solely to create the depth, but we want the actual lasting shade, the top shade, to be our teal color. Bringing that down, and yes, I'm just gonna, I also want to bring some shading up here, and we need some shading in here and here. So I'm coming back with the BG05, which is the medium shade, to fill in these highlights, because I want to make sure that everything that I do behind here is going to look darker than the top section of the folds that are all highlighted. So we don't want to bring the highlights to the back, because otherwise it will not look like it's at the back or underneath. So we keep that all darker. Now the only spot that I am going to bring that highlight is in these little rims here, because this is going to be in the light, and the same here. So I'm just going to put my little bit of, so just on these, see these little tiny tips, that is where I'm going to put the lightest color, just as if it's getting caught by the light. So I'm just going to add that like so. Okay, so now I'm going to do a cast shadow. So what I want you to imagine is we've got this big sort of hole under here. So it's all obviously a different pattern, but we've got a big hole, so there's a big gap between this front part of the material and the material behind it. So here is what I'm gonna do, and just watch and see if you can pick up. So I'm going to start, as I was saying in my last video, you want to try and create a point and then go fatter. So the further away the material is from the material behind is going to be where your fat part, and where the material meets is going to be where your point is. So starting at the point, we're going to just fatten up this end over here. So this is the closest material to this one, but this one is further away. So the real little tricky trick is, let's put our shadow across there, but we bring it down a little bit. So we're going to make that fatter, because that shadow is going to be cast further down. So it's going to be a fatter cast shadow. So you've got your thinner one where the material is closer, and then it's slightly fatter on that next roll of the fold, because that's further away. And it's not likely to cast a shadow on that one behind, so we're going to leave that for a moment. And then let's do this one where it's going to cast and then it's going to come back to the point. Can you see that in the video there, how I've done that? Doesn't that look quite realistic? So let's do the same on this one. So if you look at this part of the material here is going to be close to this one, but further away from this one. So let's take, let's start at the point. So we work from the point. I'm going to bring that across, and I'm going to bring that right across like that. That is the easiest way to do it. So bring that across, and then we're going to follow that, bring it like that. And I'm going to sort of bring it around as a point. So do you see how I did that? And it sort of makes your image look so much more realistic rather than just drawing a great big line. Okay, so let's do it on this one. So we've got our point, and it's going to sort of just finish there. It's going to be, it's more of a fat one anyway. And then, so we've got this sweeping one here. That is a really hard one. Really, like if you were going to do this as like the perfect type of cast shadow, this would do like a really big cast shadow down across there. But it kind of, sometimes if you're trying to do things properly, they look ugly. So we're just going to pretend. So I'm going to do, I'm going to come down the side here. So let's do that. Let's come in here. I'm going to come down the side, and we're going to bring it across here to like a point. And then I'm going to tuck it, make it thicker here, and then bring it across as a point. I think that will look okay overall. So there we go. So I think that's starting to look pretty good. I just want to do this little tiny one here that needs to be a little cast shadow there. Alright, I feel like I need to do a little cast shadow here, so I'm just going to do that. Now we've got this cast shadow here, so we're going to do our away, let's do from the point, so do from the point first. I find that's always easier. And I'm going to bring it across to there, and then because this material actually goes away from it, so we're going to make that slightly thicker, just ever so lightly, and bring that across. And that just sort of helps to give it that dimension, like that. Now let's do this one here. So we're going to start at our point and bring that up like that. And then let's do this one here. So we've got our point, and then going to a little bit thicker as it moves away from the material. I think that's not too bad. Now see this one here, this is actually going to create, like, it's going to sort of create a cast shadow that sort of doesn't go right to the end. So you would bring it down, and then you would bring it across to the point. See how that's sort of like done like a sort of like a drop shadow type effect. So it's like doesn't quite go across to the point because that is up in the air away from it. We can do that again here. So we're going to pull it back a little bit and then bring that across. I could have done that on this one too, so let's do that here. And pull it away. And pull it away, like so. And then we could do that on this one as well. So this one's up higher, so it's going to actually be further down that cast shadow because of the way that the light would be hitting it. And we can pull it away like that. And then we've got this one here. And that one is going to be really just along that line. There you go. How does that look? What do you think? Do you like the cast shadows? Now if you want to, for these ones, because they're actually further away from the folds, we can soften those ones. So I'm going to come in with the BG05 and I'm just going to soften the edge of that shadow just by dabbing it. But you don't have to soften shadows. I mean, like if you go look out in the real world, it's not often that shadows are soft. So they're you know, they're usually really hard shadows. So don't be afraid to have hard shadows. Alright, I'm pretty happy with those, that part of the dress.